Hello beauties, it's Amy Fig here at Book of Magic. This week's video is in collaboration with Kia Creates for her Halloween Journal Challenge 2024. Every day of October has a prompt, and this is day 10 with prompt Apple Orchard. I'm using Master's Touch gouache paint today in black, white, crimson red, vermilion, viridian green, and lemon yellow. So let me get set up here. I'm putting my favorite palette up top. These leaf dishes will be available in our shop very soon, and I just love using decorative dishes as paint palettes. Does anyone out there use pretty dishes from the thrift store for palettes? Leave me a comment to let me know. Since it's fall, you'll probably see more leaf dishes at thrift stores, I would think. I'm working on Bristol paper today in my journal. I made this journal and I absolutely love this paper for any kind of paint. I'm putting this washi tape down to make a nice fancy border. This one has lipsticks on it. I don't remember where I got it. Next, I'm drawing an illustrative face, starting with the shape of the head and then adding the features. I want this face to be slightly turned to the side and looking off into the distance. I'm not worried about it looking realistic. It's just for play and for practice. So while I'm drawing, I want to tell you a cute little story about an apple tree that I heard a while back. Here I go. Once upon a time, a young apple tree began growing in an orchard. Each night, she would gaze up into the evening sky and admire all the bright and twinkling stars. Oh, how she wished she had just one of those shining stars of her own. One night, an orchard fairy came to the tree with a promise to grant the little tree one wish. Without hesitation, the young apple tree told the fairy of her wish for a star of her own. The fairy promised that if the apple tree was a good tree and grew to be big and strong and full of red, ripe apples, her wish would be granted. The apple tree tried her very hardest. Each sunny day, she lifted her branches up to the warm sunshine, and each rainy day, her roots soaked up the water she needed to grow. After several seasons, her hard work had paid off, and she was one of the biggest trees in the orchard, with branches heavy with red, ripe apples. She waited and waited for the orchard fairy to return so she could show her what she had done and finally be granted her wish. Finally, the fairy returned, and the tree shook her limbs with excitement, showing off her strong branches and all those beautiful apples. "Look!" she exclaimed. "I've worked so hard and I've waited so patiently. When will I finally be given my wish and one bright star of my own?" "Oh, my dear," replied the fairy, "your wish has already been granted. You now have among your branches not just one, but as many stars as you've admired in the night sky." "But where?" questioned the apple tree. "All I see on my branches are leaves and these apples." The orchard fairy gently answered, "Just peek inside any one of those apples. There you'll find a special secret hidden star. It's ready to be discovered by the lucky person who chooses one of the apples you've worked so hard to grow." The end. And if you didn't know already, when you slice an apple horizontally, you will see the star, which I'll put a picture of right here. I think that's such a cute story, and maybe it will inspire you in some way when you're creating your apple orchard illustration or pages today. So I'm just filling in the eyes here and giving her a wingtip eyeliner, which I always love. And then adding some shading to the tip of her nose. Let's move on to the hair. I want this to mimic the leaves of the apple tree, so I'm creating this rounded mane of curls. I'm not defining each curl, just giving the impression of them with this squiggly outer edge. Her neck can be like the tree trunk. And then I'm just adding shoulders and her torso. I'm using blending stumps now to help darken my shading. This is a skinny one with a tiny tip. I have several different sizes for different size drawings that I do. I got these in a set at Hobby Lobby, and I'm sure you can order them on Amazon too. I darken these areas of the face, and then I always go back and fill in that bright white space with a very light shade of pencil by lifting up on the blending stump or reducing the pressure I'm putting on it as I move it around on the paper. Fun fact about this video, this is actually the second video that I filmed. The first one was lovely with an apple orchard landscape that went across both journal pages and a girl walking through. She was carrying a basket and heading to pick apples. After I had done all the editing and voiceover and everything on that video, I went to save it and the file was too big to save. My phone started glitching all over the place. I tried everything to save that video, but eventually I just had to let it go. If you want to see what those first pages look like, I'll be posting them on my Instagram page today with this finished page. You can tell me which take on the prompt you like better. This neck shading is simple but effective. These two lines come down and slightly inward, and I make them the darkest and then go back and fill everything else in with a lighter shade, just like I did with the face. What are these muscles called right here? If someone knows, please tell me in the comments. I'm mixing a green, a light green with a lot of water. I used yellow and just a dot of black to get this green. I'm just going to cover the whole torso in it. Now I'm using a little more of the same color but with less water. I added a little bit more black so it's a little darker and a little less water. And these are trees. The leaves of the trees, I'm going to paint this all the way across the torso. And then I'm adding a little more black to this color to make it a little darker and going just across the bottom of all of these leaves for a shadow effect. I mixed some brown by using the warm red, a little bit of yellow, and a little bit of black. And I'm just going to paint with this tiny brush some tree trunks and branches all the way across now. I'm mixing the Viridian green with some black. It's a cool green, and I'm just painting in the hair. And then in the same way I did the trees below, I'm going to put a little bit of black and make it darker and put that across the bottom of the hair. Just a tad darker. like a dot, just a tiny dot of black. Let's see. I have accidentally flicked red paint on her, so I'm touching it with water and just kind of blotting it, not rubbing around, just blotting. And then I'm gonna make as close to the same color as I did to cover that, and then make the same color for the trees. Luckily, I still have some extra here, so I fixed that. And I'm just practicing. I want to see what these apples will look like. I like this color, so now I'm using the cool red to paint in these apples. I'm doing them, some are complete circles, some are like crescent moons, some are like half moons. So think about phases of the moon when you're adding apples. And just so they don't look, or so they look a little more randomly placed, I guess. And then I'm adding them down here as well. I'm gonna get that same brown that I used for those tree trunks below and add some water to it for like a wash. And I'm just painting it over the entire face except for the whites of the eyes. Then the darkest green yet, I'm putting quite a bit of black and that same Viridian green to create my background. I want it to be considerably darker than the character here so that she stands out. I was going to make it dark blue like night and put stars, which is also a great option because it goes along with the story that I read. But I decided to just keep it green and use my limited palette that I have right here. And I like how it looks too. And then I'm going to completely blow dry this before I take the tape off. And the washi tape, it comes off so nicely. I just have to go slow. And now I have my fancy frame. I could do some journaling on the side. With these pins, we're going to do our finishing detail work. These are micron pins. They're permanent. And this is the Jelly Roll gel pen in white. I'm using like a teeny tiny one for these eyebrows. It's like 005 size. And I'm just going to go ahead and outline all the features of the face now. I'm painting in the lips with the crimson red. It's the cool red. I'm using this teeny tiny brush to paint the upper lip. Then I'm wiping most of my paint off and just touching my brush in a little bit of water so that I make the bottom lip considerably lighter than the top lip. And then just sort of blending them together. I'm adding a little more detail with these squiggly lines and this very fine line of this 005 tip of this pin. It looks like hair, but also like leaves from the tree. Well, thank you so much for watching. If you like my content, please consider subscribing to my channel and giving this video a like. You can find the link to the entire Halloween Journal Challenge 2024 playlist in the description. Go check it out. There's lots of fabulous inspiration from some of your favorite journaling YouTubers. And don't forget to tag me if you make some art inspired by this video. I always love looking at your work. I'll see you guys next week with something truly magical. Bye-bye.